Hey, this is Raise Radio, the holistic wisdom podcast for awakening women that weaves food and nutrition, traditional wisdom, spiritual expansion, so that you can feel your best, body, mind, and soul. I'm your host, Raina Lutz. Let's dig in. So some of my time during the day is spent on Facebook. That's where I share a lot of education. That's where I share stories, and sometimes I share recipes and things like that. I do a lot of different teachings in my Facebook group, and I spend a lot of time in other Facebook groups helping and educating people. And one of the groups that I was in recently, someone shared this side-by-side photo of a plant-based burger, and it listed off, I don't know, like 15 or 17 different ingredients. Obviously, most of them not pronounceable. And then the picture beside it just said deer meat. And I'm like, oh, okay, this post is obviously going to cause a lot of controversy because there's a lot of misunderstanding of the plant-based movement and agenda in it versus spiritual truths and purity, and people doing work in vegan or vegetarianism to keep their body clean because that feels good for them. And there's also a lot of work being done to teach humans that it's okay to eat food, not even just okay, but really good to eat food that is so highly processed, because as long as it says plant-based, it's healthier. And so a lot of these ideas like floating around are really, really toxic and scary for me as a practitioner to read that essentially people have been so brainwashed to learn that these foods are healthy for them rather than natural foods from the earth. And so when I see something, promoting lab-created food, chemicalized foods, or fake meat, I'm going to say something as a practitioner. And so, one of the comments on this thread was someone saying, "Oh no, there's ingredients in my food." And I was completely shocked at how many people agreed with that comment, that they thought it was, like, they're obviously being sarcastic, right? Saying, "Oh no, there's a list of ingredients in this food." But in the comment themselves is an untruth, because it's not actually food. It's a food product, right? And so I had this thought come to me as I'm reading all this, that I was horrified how good of a job the food industry has done at marketing their food products, because what it has done is effectively erase our ancestral wisdom to simply eat real food from nature, right? So we've lost touch with these really most basic skills. In just a few generations, we've lost touch with what real food is, with what cooking looks like, and our body wisdom, being able to tune into our body and know what feels right to us and what foods our body needs, right? Children already have this, right? They know what foods they want, and they will ask for them. They will eat them until they're full, then they'll stop. There's no emotional eating there. And so these are skills that we, eating intuitively, eating mindfully, chewing well, knowing what real food is, and knowing how to cook and prepare it. These are all skills that should be taught as we grow up. I was so honored many years ago to be asked to teach a group of homeschooled kids how to do fermented foods. And so this was in Summerland, BC. I went in, and honestly, it was all ranges of ages, kids from age 5 all the way up to 17. And I was so astonished at how mature and kind and smart these kids were. And they were so excited to learn how to ferment foods. And we talked about how our ancestors did this, and There was a fellow that stayed behind and talked about how special this day was for him, because he was so excited for his kids to learn, because he learned from his parents back in Poland and they learned from their parents, and how special it was for him to have those moments again of squishing the sauerkraut down with the salt, or the cabbage, I should say, squishing the cabbage down before it becomes sauerkraut, and having these in his blood memories come back of doing this with his parents, and generations have been preparing foods like that. And so for him, it was really special. And so if we don't, step up to teach these to the next generation, they just die. So, coming back to this uncomfortable truth that we're being taught that processed foods are normal, are healthy, foods that have, multiple plastic wraps around them, foods that are pumped full of chemical additives, preservatives, flavorings, dyes. They're not real food, no matter what the label says. And I want to tell you a quick story of one of my first assignments in it might have actually been the very first assignment I had in holistic nutrition school. So this was back in 2010 when I was studying holistic nutrition back in Vancouver. And the assignment was to find 3 processed foods, any ones we wanted, and research to find out exactly the location where each of the ingredients in the food product came from. That was the most eye-opening assignment for me, and it really set the tone for the rest of the program. And as I learned, and what I would come to learn and unlearn as I went through that diploma program. Now, this research, this assignment that we were given was so challenging on so many levels, and it was such a shocking way really to, induce this introduction to alternative health or traditional health and wellness. And so many of the companies, they didn't even want to answer my questions. A lot of times I got passed around. I got passed around in phone calls. Oh, that's a different department. And then someone else would answer and I'd get hung up on. I got passed around in emails. And a lot of times I just got completely ignored. Companies that did want to speak to me, I was horrified to learn that all the ingredients, or many of the ingredients, would come from countries that were thousands of miles apart from each other. And each of those ingredients, like the baking soda comes from here, this comes from there, they would all be shipped and conglomerated, meeting in one city and then put together in the packaged food, and then having more additives, chemicals, things added to it, then plastic wrapped, then wrapped in cardboard, then shipped to your local grocery store. Completely wild. So of course, all of this was new to me because I'd been eating packaged foods for years without any knowledge of this. So it was very eye-opening to me. And, something can be like wild, interesting, offensive, and true all at the same time. Like, for instance, I am constantly both horrified and in deep gratitude when I go grocery shopping. So I'm not sharing this podcast, of course, to shame anyone for eating processed foods. I understand that's the world we are living in. But I also want to stress that processed foods are not the same as real foods. We are living in a total Wild West of food right now, where if you wanted, you could buy international foods at 3 a.m. or even order food at the flick of a thumb on your screen to be delivered within the hour. My podcasts, my Facebook posts, my emails, everything, all of the work that I put out, my thoughts, my knowledge, this is my art, and these are my shares from my personal experience. So I like sharing my stories. I want to educate people, and people's soul growth and happiness is the most important thing to me. So please remember that as I share things, if they're upsetting to you, I'm not trying to hurt people. I'm trying to get this education out. Eating real foods closer to our Paleolithic ancestors supports our mental health, supports our body, our overall wellness. That was taught to me by a Métis elder, David Daniels, who shared amazing truths with us when it comes to how our food is grown. And it all aligned with what I was taught in holistic nutrition school, which is our soil is toxic, Our processed foods are not healing for the body, and we need to get back to the land and grow food or buy food from local farmers as much as possible. Now, in saying Paleolithic ancestors, I'm not saying to do the crash diet or a Paleolithic diet, right? I'm saying fruits and vegetables long-term, sustainably, are our friends. Part of holistic nutrition coaching is helping people navigate this complex world of food. And that happens in the grocery store, but it also happens in our minds and our spirits, where we carry our food stress and trauma and our stories, right? Food just exists. We put stories on it if it becomes emotional for us. So that world needs looking at, excavating, and healing. And part of medicine work is finding our sore spots in our psyche and helping people navigate this complex landscape of the psyche so that we can confront our demons with a soft landing. So I'm here for you to start doing that work. And if you are feeling called to make change in your diet, don't make it out of guilt. May it be that you are being called to upgrade your diet, to nourish your body. May it be that your ancestors are calling you back to the land. May it be to digest food better so you can digest life better, and to eat the way your body needs, not your sore spots. May it be to fuel your soul so you can continue on your path in a space of calm and beauty, in solidarity with a healthy relationship with the land and with food. Thank you so much for listening today. Thanks for listening. You can find me online at www.rainadonlutz.com.